Thanks for coming, everybody. We're going to get started. This event series that we have kicked off, we've done a couple this year. It's gone really well. Just a great conversation about how to grow your off-premises revenue. So I'll just turn it over to the panel and our VP of Cater Partnerships, Victoria Brady. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for showing up on this rainy evening. We brought our Boston weather to share with you all tonight. So I'm the VP of Caterer Partnerships at ezCater. I've been there actually 6 years today, onboarding caterers like yourself, and really overseeing everything that has to do with our caterer team. So we have a wonderful panel for you today. We're going to speak. We have some topics that we've asked people what they want to hear about, so we'll go through those, go through some panel questions for about 45 minutes or so, and then we'll leave about 15 minutes at the end, so you can feel free to ask any follow-up questions or any questions that we may not have got to. You have some notepads there and pens. Feel free to take notes, and then afterwards we'll head upstairs to continue the conversation, get to know one another a little bit better, and have some food and drink. So if everybody wants to just take a minute, introduce themselves and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Parker. I'm the co-founder of Impact Brands. And my background in history with catering and off-premise has been lifelong almost, 20 plus years, and built the catering program at Zoe's Kitchen and introduced the program at Jamba Juice.
Hi, my name's Rick Dobbin. I'm with Cafe Izmir. I have the opposite experience of you. I'm relatively new to the business, but my business partner, Beau, of course, has had his restaurant, family restaurant up on Greenville, and we've opened up a few more locations, and we are new to catering. And looking forward to expanding it, learning lots of new things, and sharing ideas with you.
My name's Michelle Matthews. I'm with Dickey's Barbecue Pit, and I've been there a little over 7.5 years. I'm their Vice President of Direct Sales and Catering. I started our 866 barbecue hotline and online leads portal, so I have a team that takes all those online leads and sends them out to all the stores, and then we also handle all of the third-party vendors, like your Uber Eats, Grubhub, all that.
Very good. Hi, I'm Jim Rand. I'm with ezCater. I am the catering practice leader. This is week 4 in my tenureship with ezCater. Prior to that, I was the VP of off-premises dining at P.F. Chang's, and then prior to that, I was the VP of catering at Panera Bread for 8 years. So that's kind of what I bring to the table, and I've been in restaurants since I was in high school. So I've been doing this for a long time.
Great. So let's dive right in with our first question. First topics are really going to be covering marketing and sales. So Jennifer, who would be responsible for off-premise sales? Do you have someone in your store or a sales team? And how do you compensate them?
I think it really depends on the size of the organization. So if you have, a 2 or 3 unit organization, my recommendation would be to look at a catering coordinator in store. When you grow beyond that, getting into a multi-unit salesperson, somebody who is a true professional in sales, that can be outside of the restaurant and growing the business would be kind of the model that I would look at. And that's what we did at Zoe's Kitchen. We actually had started with catering coordinators in every single location. And then we had a workforce of 100 catering coordinators. And then we transitioned that to a multi-unit and had, tremendous success there. Grew it from 11 to 50 million in 3 years.
Rick, what about you with a couple locations? What are you guys doing for catering sales there? Whose responsibility?
We have a person designated going out, and she's got a great personality. She's been in sales doing all kinds of different things, very professional and corporate type. But, people call in, they go through ezCatering, they go online, and with the handful of stores we have now, it's a lot of personal attention. I mean, they're calling people at, I think we did a big order, huge order. We had like 2 hours to do it. Now, the good news is, because we have a restaurant, we have our staff there. So they're already going to be doing lunch. so they can handle that kind of order. But there's going to be a ceiling we're going to reach at some point. And we're going to have to figure out how to do that. But right now, we have one person doing sales, some other people doing deliveries. You know, I'll talk to people, land some deals. It's all whatever we can catch. It's kind of like that.
Al, Jim, different for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, when we have our owner-operators, I mean, yeah, we're a big franchise, but we have a lot of people that they're putting everything they have into their very first store. So I think you as an owner-operator really have to take initiative and be the one to get out there and build your business, because no one's going to have the passion for it like you are. And once you've really established yourselves, that's when you're going to train people on your team and have actual catering experts within your store, and train them to go out and do what you do. But I mean, you have to be the rock. You have to be the foundation. If you hand it off to someone from the get-go, then they're going to be forming the relationships with the contacts, and if they decide that your partnership and their partnership with you isn't it, then they're going to take those contacts with them somewhere else. So you want to make sure that you're kind of there at the core.
Yeah, I think one of the things I didn't mention is prior to being the VP of catering with Panera, I was a franchisee at Panera. And so we started with no stores. And as we built our business, part of what we needed to do to grow our volumes was to build catering. And I think, as you know, as everyone has said, you need to identify somebody within your organization, whether it's one restaurant, 5 restaurants, or 10 restaurants, who owns it. Somebody has to take responsibility for catering. And I had a really interesting conversation with a single unit operator of a restaurant in Boston a couple weeks ago, and she was telling me how she just can't find the time. And I said, well, you know, you need to find the time if you want to grow the business. So if it's going to be you, then you need to find somebody else to run the restaurant on a day-to-day basis. And if it's not you, then if you want to run the restaurant, you want to be in there all day long, then you need to find somebody else who you can trust, who can go out and help grow that business for you.
And are you guys generally paying a salary, a commission that's a % of those catering sales? How are you compensating someone to go out and bring in that business for you?
Could be a hybrid. It depends on really who's going to be going out. You might have someone in marketing. I've seen stores when they bring on a marketing manager, they might be paying them some kind of base to cover car and things like that for them to go around, computer, phone, things like that. And give them an email address, and then giving them a percentage of the sales, I think is what really drives it home.
When we got started with our franchise, we brought in a family friend who had a sales background, and she needed insurance because her husband had his own business and they had no insurance. So she came on, we paid her insurance for her, and she went to work for us on full commission. And we gave her a little bit of a draw, obviously, to make sure that she had some money coming in until she started bringing in the sales, but it didn't take her long to do that.
So following up, Rick, you were saying, you know, you have people calling in, you're in the store, so sometimes it's you taking orders, it's other people. How do you take advantage of the fact that people are coming into your store every day and it could be a potential catering customer?
Well, that's always a great opportunity. Our servers, it's a relationship thing. At the end of the day, it's all about the relationship. Are you reliable? I mean, it's not the food and the pricing, it's really, are you going to be there when I need you? Especially if it's corporate. And our audience is not just, it's quite frankly the administrator or whoever's in charge of it, because we got to make them look good. So when they come in, they're very familiar with the food. And if it's a great experience, then they have a very positive sense of the restaurant. So then you can take that and just try to have the same type of high quality food, same type of service, same type of reliability for the catering. So it's not exactly the same, but the reputation, the feeling, the warm and fuzzies, it's all about that. And that's sort of how we do it.
Jennifer, did you have?
From a marketing perspective, you have to take advantage of inside the 4 walls. So, you know, for years we would hear at Zoe's, oh, I didn't know you catered. And we weren't telling that story inside. You know, there were specific marketing campaigns, windows that we were working around, and finally I won and got a campaign. And, you know, that was a part of the growth story that we had, and it was simply telling that we catered inside the store. We had a sales force And we were making the most of that as well. But when it came down to, do people know that you offer that? You'll see that in many brands where it's just a cling on a window that says we cater. So if you don't, if depending on where you're at in your catering path that you're going down, if you are ready to grow the business, you've got to tell the message to the people that are coming in and already love your brand.
And I think with the public in general, they look at you as a restaurant, and they look at catering as something separate. And there's such a merging going on that they're not quite there yet. They don't know if I just think people have a tendency to compartmentalize things. And if they don't know what you're doing, and we ran into the same thing, and we're like, next door, you cater? Yeah. Oh, wow. So
I would say
right?
action items, if you're brand new and you're just trying to get your feet wet and get your foot off the ground, it's going to be how you answer the phone with your catering experts at the end. It's going to be stapling catering menus to all of your to-go bags. It's going to be training the staff inside the store to do table touches and let them know about it, right? So just starting with the bare basics before you get up to that big campaign, right? That's what you want.
Michelle, how do you retain those customers now that you've done all the work to let them know about catering, especially if when something goes wrong? Because sometimes something goes wrong, so how do you make sure you're keeping those customers?
Sure, I think you want to do everything you can to prevent that. So you want to make sure that you're doing day before confirmations with your guests to go through the entire menu, make sure there's no gate codes you needed to know, where they need to park and actually drop off with the food. Is there a different person to actually check in with than who actually placed the order, right? Because the person who placed the order might not be the event day contact. You want to make sure you actually shake hands and meet the person when you set up the food, and make sure that they think everything looks okay. And if everything doesn't look okay, make sure you fix that right then. You want to do a follow-up call afterwards to make sure that they're happy and to ask for referral business. And when something does go wrong, you need to make sure that you're taking the time to speak to your staff about that, because a lot of people go in to making that catering happen, from the person who puts, for us, the barbecue sauce together or forgot it, to the utensil packs that go in there, or maybe they forgot them. And make sure you discuss the wins too. So when they get a compliment and do a good job, discuss those wins with everyone, but when it goes bad, talk about that with your team and figure out how to prevent that.
So, Jim, when you were first starting out as a franchisee and you had no locations, what were some strategies you put into place to create just awareness of your store and the brand itself?
In general?
Just in the community, yeah.
We did a lot of neighborhood marketing. That was a big part of Panera's growth strategy in the early days. We called ourselves Neighborhood Bakery Cafes. And we did everything we could to become, involved and impactful in the community in any way, shape, or form that we could. If that was with, the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, if it was with sponsoring softball and soccer teams, if it was, helping out a local church, whatever it was that we could be a part of, we became a part of that. And it took quite a bit of time. I mean, I was a franchisee in Minneapolis, and Minneapolis is not brand friendly. There, at least at the time when I was there. Maybe it's changed a little bit over the years, but they liked local restaurants. They didn't like big brands. Panera was already starting to kind of become a big brand at that point in time, and we had to show them that we cared about the community, and that was probably the biggest thing that we did.
So what incentives have any of you used that work best to gain those customers? And any couponing or any incentives?
During your off season is when you might want to give away free drinks or throw in a free dessert. Make it make sense. Like in February, you have Valentine's Day, so throw in a free dessert when they're placing a catering. You also might, for some of your clients, if you have quotes out there and you're just trying to get them to go ahead and close and choose you want to give them a book by the end of the month, and you'll get 10% off your next catering. You also might do a catering loyalty program where every third time they order with you, they get a percentage off, or the free drinks or the free dessert, or you might even do a referral program.
Do you guys find that there's a difference in those incentives for maybe your social catering versus the business admin? You might do something different for an admin or for a social catering order, Jennifer?
The opportunity with an admin is pretty significant. She's ordering from a lot of different brands all week long for many meetings, and so a loyalty program for somebody who orders really frequently, can be structured differently than somebody who is maybe a one-time, once a year, twice a year, even 3 times a year is not usually enough if you're looking at like a loyalty program with a percentage of sales back or a gift card at the end of the year, something like that. It's hard to accumulate enough for a reward. One of the things that was so great about working with ezCater was the rewards program that's there. Those admins have the ability to really grow that incentive and get a nice kickback once they've accumulated enough for a reward. At Zoe's, it contributed to probably, my guess is, thinking back, about $2 million of our 50 million, was active participants in a loyalty program. So it wasn't fully maximized. I think the social consumer, it's a one-time thing. So that coupon, that free cake, the free beverage, something like that's going to be more valuable probably to them than, a recurring admin.
Well, I was just going to add, there's a lot of companies that are, you maybe have heard of Punch, Punnch. They're one example of a number of companies out there that have loyalty platforms that you can, sign on to and be a part of, and they're pretty easy to work with versus having to create your own program and a tracking system for loyalty, et cetera. So it's something you might want to look into.
For those people that don't have loyalty programs and maybe are a little bit of a smaller organization that's focused on a lot of things, what are some things that they can do either when they drop off food or just when they do have that catering order to try to go above and beyond to gain that business?
I have an owner-operator, and I literally was just talking to him on the phone today, but something really cool that he does is he does a day after call, which a lot of us do, to make sure that everything went well, ask for repeat business, again, ask for referral business, and then within that week, he either drops off or mails them a handwritten note. You don't get those that often. And then he also, 30 days out, does another follow-up call, 60 days out, does another follow-up call, and so on and so forth. And so that's something that's really cool and I think is unique that all of his stores do.
Building on that a little bit, because I think that is very important. How many touches after you've had that catering order do you guys generally do a follow-up call? Are you calling 2 weeks after, 30 days after? Is there a specific cadence that you guys are going through to make sure that you're getting those repeat orders?
Next day is critical. We aimed initially to always do it same day. And, you're in the middle of the operations, a lot of times, especially B2B catering, it's, your drop off is at 11, now all of a sudden you're in the middle of your lunch. And then you're wrapping up your day and getting ready for the next big shift. And so, making that call back on the same day can be challenging. That should be it's a little aspirational, but that's ideal. If you can't do it same day, the next morning, that's got to happen. I can't tell you how many repeat orders you get just right then. Somebody that says, yeah, it was great. In fact, let me go ahead and place the order for my next meeting. So taking advantage of that and asking for the sale at that opportunity if they had a great experience, I can't recommend that stronger. I mean, it's a great way to grow.
This is kind of following along the same theme. I don't know if we have more to expand on it, but what is your best grassroots campaigns that you guys have done within the community beyond, I guess, just being involved in the community? Or was there anything else, Jim or Rick or Jennifer or anyone?
Well, you've got your client list. So if you've built some sort of program, whether you've got 1,000 a month or 10,000 a month in catering per store, you keeping track of those catering customers and asking for referrals from those folks, you build a relationship and they're going to be your best source of referral if you're not investing in outside marketing. One of the things that we did at Zoe's, we just took advantage of, our mission there was delivering goodness from the inside out. So it was a lot about goodness, giving back, and Random Acts of Kindness Week. We took advantage of that, made a month out of it, and did all kinds of things that was really out in the community, just delivering goodness, dropping off cookies, dropping off free catering orders. So, look at the calendar and see what's happening that's relevant for your brand and find a way to leverage that to give you a reason to be out in the community and talk to people.
Agreed. Our Dickey's is affiliated with a great charity called Barbecue Boots and Badges, and so every Friday our stores drop off a family pack at a local fire station, police station, something like that, and it's awesome. They take pictures, post it on social media, and it's fun.
Well, it's the branding of your business, and it's not so much the catering issue, it's just who you are. Fortunately, we enjoy, and we do all kinds of things, we not just sponsor things, but they'll ask us if for a donation or if they can help this out or this charity, or we don't have any like set formal policies. We're not that big, and we're still learning. Boy, are we learning! And but it's the good news is we enjoy it, and we'll have military people come in or something, and they're we don't. It's not a policy. We just do it. It's just a one-off, and we give our people, and we got great employees. We give them a lot of freedom to see that, and people have their dogs. We feed them bacon. I don't know. It's whatever.
It's building your brand.
It's just what it is, right?
Yeah. Jim, did you have anything to follow up?
Yeah, we've tried everything.
I will
Everything
say,
these guys have been.
Yeah, so Boston, we're a very college, university-heavy town. When we did ezChats in Boston, I loved one of our local caterers said that she actually gets a lot of university students involved, and she will stalk the campuses, which they don't always love, but she'll find university students that if they get someone, whether it's a study group or it's a professor that's feeding a class for a specific project, if they place the order through her, she gives them the percent of the order. I mean, you talk about college students, they're out there trying to earn some money, right? So I just thought that was so genius to think about what is around me in my area that I can turn on as an ambassador for my brand. So I'm not local to Dallas, but I'm sure you can all think about what's local to Dallas that you can kind of take advantage of to go out there and be ambassadors for your brand.
One of the things that we did, I think, with some success is after you've built a client list and you have a number of customers that you do business with, we found it was pretty beneficial to actually invite them into the restaurant. As a group, we would actually have a private event for them, and we would show them new products. We would talk to them about, how they can use our products to help their business. We'd introduce them to, things that we would introduce a referral program to them, for instance, if they weren't part of it, and we would use it as a way to help them understand how they could use our brand to help them do what they do.
What kind of IT infrastructure do you guys need, use, or recommend? Are we using Excel spreadsheets? Is there something more that you're using? Are we using a salon appointment book? We've seen it all at ezCater. So what are you guys using, and what do you think is helpful?
Well, online ordering, it is, even for a large brand, a hard place to get to for a catering program. It took, 3-4 years of, again, begging, pleading, offering my firstborn to get it at Zoe's, and eventually got it there, but it was a massive investment. And so, from a technology standpoint, there's a lot of different tools out there. There's a lot of different ways to stay organized. If you can believe it, we did do 50 million without online ordering and with Excel spreadsheets. So I think you were making that joke at me because you know that we use that. And
Lots and lots of people are using those Excel spreadsheets.
yeah, but technology is more accessible than ever. Leveraging partners that offer it. If you're not able to build out an online ordering system for yourself, is a path to get there. And they do, appropriately named, make it fairly easy to do. So, there's that path. And depending on what tools you need for your sales force, one of the things that I do think is pretty risky is making sure that your data is protected. So if you are in a place where you've got a few salespeople or coordinators that are building client lists for you, or you're doing that yourself, it would be heartbreaking if raise your hand if you're a salesperson in here. Okay, so it's relevant for several of you. If you lost all of your contacts, what would you do? I mean, it would just break your heart, right? I mean, the tears, I've seen it. And so, making sure you're protecting that information is super critical because it's so valuable.
Rick or Michelle?
We weren't going to spend millions, so we just recently went through another service. And
You can name it and share with everyone. We won't take
I
offense at
forget
all.
the name of them. They're up there in New York or someplace. No, it's ezCatering. And they go to our website, our guests, our customers, clients, and they can order online, and it's in the background. So they can either order through ezCatering, or they can just go on our website and order. We just got a pretty big one just a couple hours ago. So it's because I looked into it, I know it'd be way too complicated and way too expensive, and protect all this information. So for a while, we're okay with it. And when we get big enough, then we'll kick you guys off and we'll have our own. But that'll be a while,
We
I'm
hope
sure.
we can still support it. So that's a great segue for me, and I'll let you guys follow up in a moment. But for those of you that aren't familiar with what Rick is speaking about, we have a new feature that we're calling Private Store, where basically the menu that our customers are using on ezCater, that's your menu, you can basically just have a link on your website to that. Your customers can go directly through you to your website, and the orders come in the exact same way that they normally would come in through ezCater. So if you have more questions about that during the cocktail hour, we can give you examples, maybe even show you what Rick's looks like, and just talk you through a little bit more about what that is. And
Well, and as part of my role in coming on here is to help take that private store experience and something else called Easy Manage, which is the portal, right, that you can go on and view all your ezCater orders, and make that into a robust back office sales CRM type program for you, as well as having features in there that'll help you run your operations better, so that people like Rick won't throw us out the door down the road.
Yeah, just keep working on that, and I'll stay.
Enough of our infomercial. We promise it won't be all about ezCater. Michelle, anything that you guys use that's any different than what we've spoke about already?
We're working on getting our stores the tools to be able to make everything, automated and in one online system. I guess, going back to when I first started with the company, at the bare minimum, you got to have someone answering a phone. You need an email address to be able to communicate with your guests, and you need to really know where your catering orders live. So where are your upcoming catering orders? Where are your orders that are coming up for the week, so you know how to order food, schedule labor, all that good stuff. And more importantly, so where are you going to keep your past catering orders, so that you can go through and just, if you have to do the paper by paper follow-up, at the bare minimum, you at least need those things.
That's great. So we are going to switch on to a new topic, a hot topic in the industry right now, which is delivery. So what kind of challenges do you guys think that third-party delivery services present, and how can we address the economics of the third-party delivery and the partners that are out there? Jim, do you want to start with this one? Because you've dealt with it, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to make the decision of how. So for catering, all right, let's start with catering. For catering, there's enough volume there for it to make sense for you to have your own delivery personnel. Now, it may be difficult for you to find delivery personnel or people with vehicles, but it would make sense to employ people or even contract people. The example in our last ezChat that you were referring to, Victoria, with the college students, that they were also driving. That was one of the other things that she used them to do, is she would use them as drivers so that they would work for her part-time. So when it comes to delivery, I think for catering, you can look internally. There's opportunities to look externally with it, but from my point of view, I think the rates, the percentages that are being charged are taking away the majority of your profit. And I think you need to be very upfront and negotiate as hard as you possibly can to get the best deal that you possibly can if you're going to use a third-party delivery service. And, for small orders, it's the same thing. It's, you really, I think you need to make a decision about how much do I need that extra revenue, right? Do I have enough revenue coming in my front door and sitting in my restaurant and eating my food? And do I have enough people coming in and doing takeout? And do I have enough catering business? Do I need to expose myself to the delivery of small orders? And if you do, you've got to do the math, and you have to make sure that it's profitable for you. We talked earlier, and I know you have.
I'm an advocate.
Yeah, you're happy. Yeah, you're happy with it. So
I am.
Go ahead.
I love our third-party vendors. I think the Uber Eats and Grubhub and all that. What's hard for owner-operators is exactly the point you bring up. How do you swallow giving 15 to 30% of your bottom line, and I totally get that. And what you have to realize is that with these third-party vendors, the people who are using them are people who are very app loyal. So they're not going to Panera, to Dickey's, to our restaurants. They have an app and they're loyal to it, right? And so if you're not on the app, you're off their radar altogether. So it's one of the few investments with a guaranteed ROI. You're only going to spend the money and only get a small profit margin, but you're only getting it when you get the sale. And the really cool thing about it from an economic standpoint, I would say, is that to open your store, to open up your four walls, you're gonna have the same overhead. It's not like you're gonna turn on, and my hope is that you have to bring in more labor because you're getting so many orders coming in from these apps. But the reality is you might get 4 at lunch and 4 more at dinner, and you don't need to bring in an extra person to do that. So all you gotta do is maximize the efficiency of the staff you have in the store, train them how to handle those orders, and then you're gonna get the exposure. And once they use you for the delivery portion of it, they might actually come into your store and turn into a dine-in guest, and then turn into a catering guest. So you have to, like you said, see if it's right for you, but it's right for you.
Yeah, I would also encourage you to do a little research into who the user of third-party delivery is and see if that matches up with who your customer is, because the demographic that you may be appealing to with your food and with your restaurant may not be the same consumer who uses delivery apps. There's a lot of data out there that you can look at, and I'm not making a judgment call one way or the other. I think you can do the research and make that decision for yourself.
Rick, what are you guys doing? Are you doing your own delivery or using partners? And
All of it. Yeah, and it's all working out well. The third-party delivery system, it can be pricey, but you got to look at your marginal profits, not your absolute. So the marginal cost, what's my margin? My labor's there, so it's food, right? And it's a good gross profit margin. The risk is there's a few risks. One is who's delivering your food. I mean, is the person sketchy? What's the deal? Because that's the experience. If it's a bad experience, they're not going to blame Uber. They're going to blame you. If the food gets messed up and it's turned over side, they're going to complain to you, not to the delivery system. That's a big issue. You're the one who's going to have to refund the money, not Uber or whoever's doing the delivery. That's number one. Number two, on the catering, we don't use third parties for catering because we're not dropping off pizza. Nothing wrong with pizza, but we're not dropping it off. We're actually setting it up. We're presenting it. Again, it's part of the experience. So if your brand is all about the experience from possibly when they leave their house to the time they get home or whatever it is, that's the experience. It's not just the food. And it carries over with your catering. The experience is when it gets set up, on time, everything's fine. That's what it has to be. And so whoever's doing it has to have the same type of a commitment and integrity to your system and to your brand that you want to promote. So that's a trick. And so the one thing, and I don't mean anything with ezCatering, but one of the issues is, I'll be quite frank, is the communication is not directly with us. It's with something else. And I'm trying to, and we can talk about it later, I don't know if this is the appropriate time or place, but how do we deal with that? If there's a misaddress, if there's something missing, how does that get fixed? Because by the time we get it, it's going to you, or it's going to some over here, and it's coming to us, and then how do we communicate with them, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's a challenge that I find.
I would add to that looking at the service standards when you're looking at different third-party providers is really where you should start. What's the average time it takes them to actually deliver? They have these metrics. They know this information. You should ask the questions. I would tell you in this market here, Favor is probably the best in my opinion. They're not perfect, but they deliver a pretty solid experience. I've tested all of them. I've worked with Postmates. I've worked with DoorDash. The complexities that it adds to operations as you add additional third-party partners, additional tablets at the register. You make the food. The driver doesn't show up for 40 minutes. Now you're remaking it. There's a lot there. So I think, I recommend that everybody get in the game, but think about it from your business. Does it make sense? Is your food going to hold well? If your business is fries and burgers, maybe not. And so think about it, what makes sense for you, and get a partner that has great service standards, that have short delivery times, and really responsive to you and your needs in marketing your business.
Michelle, you've used a lot of the different delivery services. What are some of your favorites, since you guys are very local, to hear that you would recommend?
Yeah,
people
I
check
think
it
you all
out?
touched on all the big ones. I think your Uber Eats, your Postmates, your Grubhub, your DoorDash, and Favor is another great one. ezCater is by far our largest one, and that's just because it's a catering one, right? And I think that, to what they were saying.
We didn't even pay her to say that, folks. It's pretty good.
No, it's true. It's I guess, and to keep going with that ezCater one of the reasons that I really like them is actually that you do get to do the delivery, and so we get to leave marketing materials behind to turn that caterer into a dining guest and things like that. So we get to take advantage of making the delivery. But something really cool that we've done at Dickey's is I have a team that works with the delivery partners on a weekly basis, our big ones. And so they do a great job of, if there are any issues that come up where there was a guest complaint, like how we said when guest complaints happen at the store, if it happens with our delivery provider, we're finding out what happened and we're discussing that with the vendor, and we're finding out what's going on with the driver, if we're able to do that to keep that from happening again. And on the reverse side, if we're doing a great job and we're getting our food to you really fast, what can you do for us to help us get more orders? How can we be more prominent on the website? So we're going further and further to, the people who it does work for, we want to get them the most orders that they can possibly get. And you're right, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. Like they said, there's a lot of research out there, and a lot of times they realize when they're ordering that the food is just not going to be as good. They just want it delivered, period.
One thing, if you haven't gotten in the game yet, that's interesting, in all of our tests, with delivery, the average check is higher than normal average check. So when you're thinking about the margin, percentage-wise may not be great, but it may be same penny profit. And so in the scheme of things, if they're going to order delivery and they're not going out, and it's the same profit that you would get if somebody were coming in, at the end of the day, it's still probably worthwhile to spend some time there.
Michelle, I wanted to follow up on your last comment, because I think, across the nation, we read this all the time, that in-store sales are down, right? So catering is a great revenue source, but how are you taking advantage specifically of, those catering orders, whether it be through ezCater or some of your others, to drive business back into your store and get diners in the actual store for the people that do have a storefront here?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, you got to market yourself while you're out there. So on purpose, you want to make sure that all of your packaging has who you are on it. Because if you're brand new and if you're a smaller brand and you're just trying to build out who you are, well, make sure that everything says your name on it, and make sure that you're leaving menus about where you're located. That way they know who you are. This food was awesome. What did I just eat? Where are they located? So they know where to actually come in the store. And then you can leave flyers, and we call them bounce backs, to incentivize them to become a dining guest. Or you might go specifically to, you might target like preschools and kindergartens and schools like that, and you might talk to the teachers about letting the parents know on their way home they can grab a family pack. Here's a family pack flyer. To grab food on the way home because they don't feel like cooking. So I think it's just getting that exposure, and of course doing the follow-ups afterwards.
If you're not big enough to, label your packaging, your to-go packaging. You can always go with stickers and stamps, but I couldn't agree more. You've got to have labels on everything that goes out. There was another thing. Oh, the little pack of bounce backs. If you put that in every catering bag that goes out, and you're telling the host, whoever's ordered with you, the admin, hey, share this with the team, bringing people back in. I mean, the most beautiful thing about catering is that somebody is paying you to market your business. And so this is your opportunity to have exposure to people that don't know you. And if your name isn't there at the buffet or at the station or on the box lunch, and they don't know who you are or where this food came from, it's a really big missed opportunity. So make sure everything's labeled well and take advantage of that bounce back opportunity.
I think that's bounce back is a great point. We all know how busy people are these days, especially when they're out working all week. So getting in front of them for that office catering order, and then them just having you top of mind because they have that bounce back, whether it's a free appetizer or a $10 off or a happy hour special or whatever it may be, it just saves them from thinking one step further about a different meal that week. And it seems crazy, but we've seen that it really does work for a lot of the brands that we're partnered with. With off-premise, this is the big term that's out there, right? The past couple of years, off-premise, which really is, catering and takeout all wrapped together, but everything, because in-store dining sales are down, that's the big keyword. How have all of you seen off-premise evolve over the past few years? And what changes have you made to keep up or to just adopt and be on the forefront of off-premise?
I think the biggest disruptor to our industry is just convenience. Thank you, Amazon, for making everything come to my house. And sometimes one day, my children don't seem to understand this, that if they have to wait 2 days, they're like, what do you mean we have to wait 2 days? And so I think that, really, if you think about it on a broader scale, convenience is what has disrupted all of our lives and our businesses. And, making sure that from the order process, is it a convenient process? Was it easy for me to do? The expectation in your technology working, the expectation of being able to get somebody on the phone. Everybody's service standard has raised so much, and expect all of us to be accessible and for everything to work perfectly, and also in even recovery. So I think that making sure that you're looking at it from a to-go standpoint. Do you have an opportunity for somebody for a grab and go? I always call it now and later. They're in your restaurant, they're buying something now, what can they take for later? And so whether it's to go, it's delivery, it's catering, it's this large bucket that is now off premise, but it's outside of the four walls, and thinking about what you can do to grow that share of your sales. So thinking about it in small ways. My off-premise sales today, my to-go sales are at 12%. What do I need to do to get it to 15% of the mix? If people are dining at home, you've got to be there with them.
Rick, Michelle, Jim, you guys have anything to follow on that?
I would actually not put them all in one bucket. I would put catering here, and I would put takeout and third-party delivery over here. I think they are two completely different business processes inside of your restaurant. They're two completely different consumers. The third-party and takeout is a customer, a guest, if you will, however you choose to refer to that person that would also be coming into your restaurant. A catering transaction is with a client generally, because they're buying on behalf of others, right? They're not the person that's typically consuming the food, and you have to approach it differently. So I would be careful, because what I've seen happening is that everybody says, yeah, well, we're gonna deal with off-premises, and they think of it as one big conglomerate thing, and it's not. You really need to think long and hard about each of those businesses differently. The cycles are completely different. We always talked about our catering day starts at 2 o'clock in the afternoon for the next day, because you're setting yourself up, you're prepping, whatever it is that you've got to do to make yourself ready for the next day, scheduling delivery drivers, getting everything ready. Whereas, third party and takeout is all same day, it's all reactive. and you don't have the same type of control over it, and you can't plan for it the same way. So that's the biggest difference I've seen.
Sure. And I guess with that being said, for us, I would separate them as well. And kind of what I've seen happen just over just my time with the company. When I first started with Dickey's, catering sales was about 10% of a store's overall sales. And nowadays, our stores are doing 15%, and our healthy stores are doing 20% plus in catering. And I think a lot of that has to do with really an America state of mind. We're workaholics, and so we are catering to businesses. They don't want you to leave for lunch. They want to order in and do lunch and learns, right? We're going to teach you stuff while you eat so you stay here and keep working. And that's just the truth of what it is. So being able to cater to the businesses, and again, that's something that ezCater has been able to bring to us for the table. I know just 2016 to 2017, we grew with them 175%. It was huge. And all of that is going to be your business contacts, and those are going to be repeat orders. They're a higher average ticket is what we're seeing with the business segment. They might be about $300 an average ticket, where in the store you might only see $200 to $225, and every once in a while you get the few $1,000 orders that come in. But that's kind of what we're seeing. On the delivery side of it, that's the largest growing segment that I've ever seen. We've consistently the past few years grown 300% year over year across our stores, and it's for some of them it's saved them, to be quite honest. Between catering, takeout, and the third parties, that's what saved a lot of our stores while we're waiting for people to come back into the four walls again.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for your answers. This was wonderful. I want to leave just some time as we're wrapping up here a little bit for questions from all of you. So is there anything that anybody has a question about, anything they want to follow up on a little bit deeper?
A question for Jennifer. If we're not doing a good job in our stores with POP or letting our customers know that we cater, anything best practice wise, display, what's a good way to start, and what's a good way to be even better about it?
Having just a couple of key areas where you're talking about it, it can be permanent. I love the window cling because then it's everybody walking by too. It's not just in store. Something at the register that speaks to it. Everybody's done and seen and tried the drop in your card for, catering order. That's a way to at least increase awareness that you have it, to have that there. I'm not a huge fan of fish bowls, but it is a way for you to actually get some business contacts right there on the spot. So, having your catering menu accessible where you have your to-go menu. I think somebody else mentioned earlier, and this is a great practice of, always sending it with to-go food. So those are a few ways that you can, make sure that there's some awareness. If you have the opportunity to do kind of a full-on campaign and really, make an impact across the restaurant, whether it's at the table, table tent, something that says something about it, there's a lot that you can do there. Use the walls, use the where people are sitting, using your beverage station if you're fast casual and they're getting their own beverage. There's a lot of places where you can have some messaging, and it doesn't have to be really extensive. I mean, if you just need to get started, we cater. Have a menu and tell people you cater.
Anyone else with a question?
Thank you. You mentioned, Jim, I think, mentioned paying a percentage to your sales force and figuring out, is there a common percentage? Is there a number that's, is it, it's different kind of sales from maybe other kinds of industries. So can you give us an idea of what you're thinking?
Yeah, so when I was a franchisee, right, it was straight commission. And we were giving them 15% of every order because we wanted them to grow the business and be aggressive with it and really get out and do it. With Panera and with PF Chang's, because we were a larger organization, we were hiring people with sales backgrounds, and so we'd pay them a base salary probably equivalent to somewhere between what you would pay an assistant manager and maybe a general manager, somewhere in that range. And then we would pay somewhere in the, it varied a little bit, but generally right around 4% of sales was the commission that we would pay.
And just to follow that up, just curious, because I know in some industries you get a residual, so they've made a new client for you. Do they continue to make a similar percentage, or at least a percentage of the ongoing business?
You're asking about like ongoing business, right? So the way we at Panero, we partnered with Salesforce.com. So we had a system where we tracked all of our customers, and all of the orders went through the POS and went right into Salesforce.com, so we could track everything. And we actually gave them, they got 4% of sales for all the sales from the first year from that client. And then over time, we found out that in order to, a lot of clients like to stay with their sales manager, right? And there's, so you really need to decide whether your salespeople are hunters or whether they're account managers / farmers, and they're going to hang on to people for you, and they're going to grow. Are they going to grow new business or existing business? So we continued to pay 4% for all new business for the first year, and then we started to pay 2% for any business that they hung on to for us over a 2-year time period.
I have traditionally paid a lower percentage than that, so I always looked at it from a revenue responsibility, and we'd have small little markets with 2 stores, and maybe not as big of an opportunity from a total sales perspective, and so their base salaries were based off of their territory size. So I could have somebody at 30,000 base all the way up to 60,000 base, and we paid 1%. And then we had a kicker. They all had targets. So if you hit your target, you get a kicker, and you get another %, or you get another 2% if I really need the sales this month. But there were opportunities for them to get an extra bonus if they hit their sales targets, and those grew year over year over year over year. The targets always need to incrementally grow over prior year's performance.
Yeah, we also use dollar kickers. So if they got to a certain sales level for the full year, let's just say 250,000. If they could bring in 250,000, we'd throw them another $5,000 to incent them to get to the higher number.
This question is to the ezCater company employees. Last year, you guys, since we were talking about the follow-ups, last year you guys allowed for vendors to see the customer's information and the contact. This year, something changed to where we're unable to see it. At least I know I am. And in talking with the customers, they informed us that they don't see our contact information as well. So I'm just curious to know, are we going through some type of change with the system, or is there another way that we're supposed to do follow-ups with the customers since we're not seeing or getting their contact information? We get the name of the business, but there's no phone number associated or email. So when you're talking about catering to a Memorial Hermann in Houston, you can't just Google search Memorial Hermann and try to get that number, because it's going to show at least 1,000 phone numbers for Memorial Hermann. So is there another way that we're supposed to do follow-ups with the new ezCater system?
It's actually not a new system. So if you were seeing customer names and phone numbers before, that's because we ask customers if they want to provide them. If they want to provide the name and the phone number to the caterer, then they enter that information. If they do not, then it is not shown to you. Most of our customers, because they are business customers, want to be contacted by ezCater. We have their preferred method of contact, so generally these people are going to be in business meetings, and they don't want the phone call saying, "Where are you?" right? They want a text message or an email. They've let us know that. So if you have questions about a delivery address, you're not sure, it's a doctor's office and the suite number was left off, or there's multiple doctor's offices or hospitals by that name, please definitely call our Ninja line, our support line. We have 24/7 service with our Ninjas, so they'll get that information for you. We'll follow up with that, and we'll actually help you find out what is the appropriate delivery address or the best form of contact. Any other questions? Okay. If you think of any more, feel free to continue to ask all of us. Nick, did you want to wrap up for a little bit? Thank you, everyone, for the questions, and definitely to the panelists.
Can we give it up for the panel and for Victoria? Thank you guys so much for coming out. I think we had a great conversation. It's not over. There are drinks and more conversations to be had upstairs. If you guys want to make your way down to the left and up the staircase behind you, we'll keep the conversations going. So thank you.